you and with everyone here. To be honest with you and with the people here, it's an enormous responsibility for me to be here with leaders as Yolanda, as yourself, as Fiza, as Nerea, as Irene. So I prefer to speak in Spanish, if you don't mind, to be sure and to be fluent in the conversation. Sure. I would like to introduce you in Spanish then. Gitanjali, probablemente ya.
You probably know Gitanjali from the opening we had yesterday morning. She specializes in developing programs, and she has collaborated with several UN agencies for development. And now she is working on technologies at the International Telecommunications ITU, and she has also worked for UNESCO. She focuses on developing policies for ICTs development, so that ICTs can help achieve the SDGs. And now she focuses especially on coordinating the summit, the World Summits of the Information Society, which is also an initiative of the ITU. She is also she holds a PhD from the Cambridge University, and she has studied in India. And
A lot about SDG. Oh, sorry, I said in Spanish. Okay, sorry. Leemos muchísimo.
we are hearing and reading a lot about the SDGs and other major development programs from the UN, and sometimes it seems that it's too big and a little bit overwhelming. So I would like to start by two basic questions. How is your daily work, and what do you do when you arrive at your office? And secondly, what can I do, and what can every one of us do in our daily lives in order to achieve those sustainable development goals?
And good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and first of all, I'd like to congratulate Fiza for being the strong woman that she is, and Yolanda, because we need these kind of women to bring about a change in the world. So well done, and please keep it up. And also in this conference, I think I do see a 50-50 participation, and that is extremely important. So well done to the organizers, because it's very important to see equality in gender participation. So how does my day start? Well, I'm exhausted by the time I reach office, because I'm the mother of a 4-year-old. So by the time he's in school, you're like exhausted. But the minute I reach my office building, I'm excited, I'm passionate, and I'm ready to do all the work that, is waiting for me to be done. Basically, as Fiza also said, basically anyone working in the development world cannot work if they do not have a deep passion for what they are doing. Now, you really need to feel the need to do what you're doing, otherwise you really can't do it. So what is my job? Basically, my job is to ensure that all people around the world are included in global policy making. So whether it is women, it is people with disabilities, it is the youth, it's the older persons, they are all included in the digital transformation that is taking place right now. And that is what I do by way of a global process called the World Summit on the Information Society. This summit was set up in 2003 and 2005 by the United Nations. And like I mentioned yesterday, it was the first multi-stakeholder event of the UN system, which meant that it was inclusive right from the beginning. All stakeholders were invited to contribute to the decision-making processes. The private sector, academia, civil society, all had an equal footing as the government officials sitting in the room. So that is the beauty of the work that I do to ensure inclusiveness in the policy processes, the global policy processes that are taking place, so that inclusiveness of regions, that's extremely important as well, that we ensure that the needs of Latin America are as well included as the needs of Asia and Africa. So a level playing field, Europe is provided to the world, and an opportunity is provided so that they can be part of the digital transformation that is taking place.
But exactly what do you do? You talk with the government,
Exactly.
you talk with the companies?
Yes, I talk to a lot of people. I work with 32 UN agencies on nearly like a day-to-day basis. So FAO for agriculture, health is, WHO, gender is UN Women. So, it's a lot of talking, lot of coordination. And as we've been hearing since the past 2 days out here, partnership, collaboration, coordination amongst different stakeholders is really the key to any program or anything that's happening
You
there.
read a lot about public policies and
Read a lot about public policies, and we work on resolutions. So basically we have UN resolutions in the UN General Assembly, and internally within the ITU we have our own resolution on WSIS. So there are 2 parts of my job as well. One is internal within the ITU to ensure that, and that we work a lot with our own members. So government officials, mostly from the Ministry of ICT, regulatory bodies, big private sector companies, all working in the area of telecommunications, to ensure that they are including the goals and the values of WSIS, of inclusiveness in whatever policy making that's taking place. And on the other hand, my role, like I told you, is to work with all the wide stakeholders that are existing, like who could be Yolanda from Cyber Volunteers, civil society, academia, University of Barcelona. It could be, a small NGO in India or Pakistan. So, it's a huge, it's basically my day-to-day work is connecting people, and connecting people to make the world more inclusive for digital transformation. I guess this is it.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Do you make recommendation to the stakeholder, to the government, to the companies, to the academia?
Yeah, so it's all a bottoms-up process. And for example, I can just give you, we work in collaboration with all stakeholders. The agenda of the WSIS Forum, the main event that I coordinate, which happens every year to look at the implementation of the different goals that we have, like ICT infrastructure, cybersecurity, health, agriculture, the agenda is built in a bottom-up framework. So there is a form online which anyone could fill up and tell us what they want to see happening at the event to bring in the regional, national, perspectives into this global event. So we never, it's usually like a collaborative, multi-stakeholder setup where we come up with decisions, and it's never a top-down approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Don't be polite, please.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with the attitude of government and global corporation in the information society? Are there public policy or their business strategies designed to empower citizens or not? Prometí en español. Bueno, le digo que no sé.
I promised to speak in Spanish, but I didn't. I asked whether she feels comfortable with the government policies and the corporate policies, and whether she thinks that they are oriented to the citizens.
The UN exists to create a fair, level playing field, where people with conflicting views and ideas can sit around the table and come to a conclusion, that consensus that everybody exists in, that everybody agrees with. So that is our role, to ensure that, all the 193 member states that are working with us, the different private sector companies that work with us, they all come to a conclusion that is agreed to by everybody. So it's not that, one member state would say something and we would have to sit with them to get them to agree to it. Basically, everybody sits around the table and agrees to the policies that are made. And that's the role of the UN. That's the role that we play, a mediation role, that we get everybody to agree on certain resolutions, certain decisions that are taken to take our work forward.
Sometimes this is a slow
Yes,
way.
sometimes it could be a very slow process, I agree. Yes.
Do you dare, te atreves a describir?
Would you dare describing your ideal future?
Ideal future
Well,
you are
ITUs.
working to get?
Yes.
Which
So our job is to ensure that, ITU statistics shows that basically half the world has access to internet, but the other half still doesn't have access to internet. And coming from the developing world, and I spent nearly 15 years working in the slum areas of Delhi and around Delhi to understand the value ICT brings, the economic and social upliftment that ICTs bring to the people living around there. So that's very important for us to bring those people, connect them, and bring them to the benefits that ICTs could bring. I visited a village in Thailand that I mentioned yesterday, that they are getting 300% economic profits, 300%, and these are people who did not have access to those external markets at all. A lot of women entrepreneurs have come up. The village headman has come back from Bangkok to serve his village. He's a telecom engineer, but because of the economic opportunities he sees with this rural connectivity, very important. It's very important to connect the rural areas and low-income areas in the developing world and bring them the benefits of technology. I guess that is our goal.
You said me last night that you don't travel a lot.
Yes, I don't travel much. We are saving the carbon footprints, yeah. So we don't travel much. Even during our event, we have remote participation for each and every session that we have. So we have more than 300 workshops taking place, but you could connect from wherever you are in the world. You could even pose questions. You could be visible on the screen. So we are making maximum use of technology to be able to reduce the impact on climate change. And we are very proud to say that we are a paperless organization. So we do not use paper at all in ITU. It's a very difficult thing. It's change management, especially in a UN organization, especially when you're working with ministers and member states from all over the world. But I believe that, it has really reduced a lot of unnecessary paper that we used to use. We do not print any publications. We don't even print the agenda of any of our events. But we use technology to promote, these things.
What happened with these countries or region that having access to internet or to the technology? You travel there and with kind of job?
Yes, of course, when it is necessary to show our commitment and to be here. So that's why I am also here, because, we really feel the need to encourage the work that small NGOs like Cyber Volunteers are doing, to promote the use of ICTs at a national and regional level. So it's very important to show your gratitude to some of the real work that civil society organizations are doing. So of course we travel for that, but we try to avoid as much as possible.
To be concrete, I would like to know which kind of recommendation do you make to reduce the inequality, woman inequality, young inequality, or person with disability inequality?
So ITU as an organization is doing a lot of work in all these things, but I could tell you about my own project about WSIS. For example, the main motive of WSIS is to create awareness and to create partnerships and connect people. So what we started was to popularize the use of ICTs for disabled. We actually initiated a full day track to bring about awareness about what kind of technologies exist, first of all, for the disabled, what do they want from us, and what kind of policies should be made to ensure that persons with disabilities are included in all the decision-making processes. So we also made some innovations, like we had sign language interpretation for the first time in our meetings, so that people with disabilities could follow everything that we were doing out there. We had extremely innovative startups like the ones we heard yesterday. There were some startups that were looking at how mobile phones can be used for the visually impaired, how we could have machine learning captioning for the people who cannot hear, So these things are, assistive technologies which are actually improving the lives of persons with disabilities. And it's such a simple thing to do. It's an innovation to include in whatever we do so that it's accessible. For women, we have a 50-50 challenge to ensure that all our meetings, our events are gender balanced, and we have women and men participating in the meetings. All the letters that go from our Secretary General include a line saying that we would request you to have gender balanced delegations. So it's a huge change, and like we heard from the previous speaker, we come from different cultures, and the whole, the UN is about how different cultures are melting in a pot, So it takes time, we do take time to change, but eventually it all works. Like I said, we had 60-40 participation in our event last year, which was amazing,
¿Quién financia estos programas?
Who's funding these programs? Is it the ITU? Does the ITU fund programs for startups aiming at reducing the inequality?
So, like I said, ITU has 3 departments, and they do a lot of work, So many of them fund startups as well. But in our case, WSIS is an extra budgetary activity. And because all governments believe in the power of inclusiveness and the potential to have policies to implement and to get all multi-stakeholders together, we get funding from the governments and a lot of private sector organizations to actually continue all our WSIS-related activities. So I think at the end, in today's world, your work matters. I mean, if you're doing good work, you would get the funding. If you're not doing good work, you would not get the funding. So in today's time, it's very clear. People have priorities. People know what they would like to see at the end. And if you're able to deliver in the UN system as well, there is a huge crunch. Like, we don't have money. So that's why we don't travel. We don't, we're trying to save. We have very small teams. Basically, the entire WSIS process is coordinated by me and one more person. So, so it's a very, we try to make use of limited resources. That's why partnership and, coordination amongst organizations is so important.
And if there are projects from other organizations or companies aligned with your goals, can they resort to the ITU?
So you can see, like for the WSIS Forum, we get 3,000 participants from all over the world and more than 350 workshop organizers. So you can imagine that all these guys from all over the world, and what we ensure is that there is regional equality, like everybody from different regions are there. There is equality in, like we said, gender, youth. So it's a very, most people are aligned with the work we do because this is what they want to see, inclusiveness in digital transformation.
I think it's time for some questions or thoughts, feedback.
Can you listen? Yeah.
Yes.
My question is about data. As data is like the new resource, or the one of the 20th century, 21st century, I would like if your department is working on it, or is there any project to create value from that resource in solving all the problems we're talking about? Thank you.
Yes, of course, data is one of the things that technology brings. And, you know, in the ITU, we have study groups. Study groups, they consist of member states, governments, private sector, and all members of the ITU who discuss solutions and standards to different aspects of technology. So there is a study group that discusses data as well, where experts from all over the world, including academia, talk about how they could find a solution and a global standard to all these problems that are associated with technology. So I could link you up to the group that is discussing the data questions, and then you could take it from there.
Gracias.
Hello, thank you. Here's my question. Can a small organization get in touch with your office? How can they do it? How can they join any of your programs? Because we know these resources do exist, but sometimes smaller associations, such as the ones we have represented here, we have associations from the rural world. How can they get in touch with you?
Please send me an email. I'll be very happy to work with you because if you go to our website, it's www.vis. Oh, there were supposed to be some slides playing at the background, but they're not here. So the website is www.visis.org/forum. So you will see a page out there which says calls to action. Okay, just fill up that form, and basically the VISIS forum is open to everybody. You know, you could fill it up and it's free of cost for everybody to join and to contribute your ideas. So please do write to me, and then we would take it from there. No problem at all. The more the better. VISIS is like a movement, you know, and it's like a movement that all of us have to join hands to ensure that we are able to provide that inclusiveness and bring the half of the population that is offline, online, you know. So please, all of you do join us and write to me. I'll be very happy to connect with you.
This is a very useful information.
Yes.
Right.
And my email is just my name, gitanjali.sah@itu.int. So please write to me. We are open and inclusive.
Thank you. No. ¿Alguna? Yeah, sí, es que...
Any other questions? Last question.
Well, thank you to be here and to be very inspirational. I had this question about, might be quite difficult, but how do you make it to equilibrate the weight at a decision-taking chance when listening to small, humble organizations, as she was mentioning, and big corporates, big academic institutions, and give a little power to everyone, so the decision is well balanced, and we know how it affects to everybody. Thank you.
Yes, so like I told you that first UN processes that had equal decision-making powers for all stakeholders. And in 2015, we had a review of the VISIS process. Like you had a review of the MDGs that converted into SDGs, we also had a review of the VISIS process. And we opened it up, it was a multi-stakeholder process, to negotiate each and every action line. So ICT infrastructure, cybersecurity, all these different action lines that are implemented by different UN agencies. And every stakeholder, like a small NGO to a big corporation to a government, had an equal footing in the negotiation process. Like we were doing it on site and we were changing the words in front of everybody, you know, in the document. So that is the beauty of the WISIS process, that we are not stuck with any norms that, you know, but we are open and inclusive to all stakeholders. So yes, it's everybody's voice is included.
It's a topic in your, it's an issue in your job, question as privacy, related with data, privacy or the fake news phenomenon is an issue in your job?
Yes, of course. So fake news comes under our action lines on cybersecurity and ethics and media, you know. So ethics and media is implemented by UNESCO. So we work closely with UNESCO in implementing anything that concerns the ethics of the use of ICTs. And media, like for example, the safety of journalists and things like that. It's all done by our very close partner, UNESCO. And ITU, of course, our core job is to look at cybersecurity issues and stuff like that. So we work in collaboration with our different UN agencies. And WIPO is also World Intellectual Property Right Organization, is also a very close partner in this area. To ensure that, you know, these kind of things are fought with, because fake news is becoming actually a very big global problem, you know. And especially in countries like, of course, even like India. I mean, you know, we have billions of people there, and one fake news can create, so it's becoming a huge problem as well. So we do work with governments to come up with policies that could help cater to these.
Do you work together with media to get your objectives or not?
We don't work as much with media in that sense, but I think UNESCO works a lot with media. So every UN agency has their respective mandates as well. So UNESCO as a UN agency has a mandate to work with journalists and print media and social media and stuff like that. Yeah.
And what about the big platforms as Facebook?
Yes.
Do you
Yes,
we
do work closely with Facebook, and Facebook actually comes every year to the WISIS Forum as well, because they understand the true potential of processes like WISIS. They are also a sector member of the ITU, because ITU is one of the UN agencies that opened its membership to the private sector, the academia, and very recently tech startups. So all the tech startups here, if you would like to be a member of ITU, we'll be very happy to welcome you to our community.
Yeah. Okay. So social media can do a lot to fight the inequality too.
Yes, of course.
Are they doing?
Oh.
Are they?
So I think you asked.
Are they fighting the inequality?
Hay que terminar.
Is the last question? Is the last?
You need to finish. You need to finish.
Don't be polite.
Finish.
Okay.
Yes.
2 minutes.
So I think one of the questions you asked me yesterday was, how can you use your mobile?
Oh yes,
Yes,
it was the second one.
Yes.
¿Qué puedo hacer con mi móvil to eliminar la desigualdad, para eliminar la...
To remove inequality.
Puedo ayudar a tus objetivos.
How can I contribute to your goals?
Very powerful tool for many people in rural areas, okay? So first of all, to communicate in local regional languages. You know, that's a very important thing, to communicate with people in local regional languages. It's being used for e-banking in many places in Africa and in Asia. It's been used to actually reduce the carbon footprint, the waste that we produce because we do not really have to print anything. Like today when I'm flying, I'm just going to scan my, my boarding pass. I don't need a paper, you know. So you could use your mobile phone as a very powerful tool economically, socially, to connect to, you know, your old grandparents, to bring them joy. So there are lots of things that you could do using a mobile phone and contribute to, you know, the development process.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Let's
you.
go to change the world. So with my phone.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Yes.